Now, world leaders are meeting at the UN General Assembly in New York to discuss for the first time how to tackle the problem of superbugs. This is only the fourth time that a health issue has been addressed at the UN General Assembly. Highly resistant superbugs have become an international threat, mainly because drug resistance spreads so easily across borders. Superbugs are highly resistant strains of microorganisms which can resist almost all known antibiotics. Now, the World Bank estimates that the cost of dealing with superbugs would be comparable to the losses from the 2008 global economic crisis. Low-income countries could lose more than 5% of their GDP, and if it goes unchecked, the total economic loss could be as high as $100 trillion by 2050. Now, each year, about 2 million people are infected by bacteria which are resistant to at least one antibiotic, and about 23,000 of those people die. Well, for more on this, we're joined live by Elizabeth Tayler from the World Health Organization's Antimicrobials Secretariat. Thank you very much for your time. Firstly, can you just explain to us why superbugs are such a threat?
Well, effective drugs to treat infections, like antibiotics, have underpinned many of the transformations we've had over the 20th century in healthcare. They've meant that we're not dying of infections nearly the extent that we used to. Infectious diseases are not such a threat. But also things like cancer, like caesarean sections, like joint replacement, they can all be done safely because we have effective ways of managing infection. But if those drugs stop working, then all those gains potentially can be reversed. So it's not only the economic cost, and those numbers, as you say, are very scary. It's a huge cost to health and well-being, and it's also a cost to potentially animal husbandry, because the animal sector, the livestock sector, is really reliant, uses huge quantities of antibiotics. And if we can't use those to treat sick animals, then it will affect animal production as well.
So what can be done? What are you hoping comes out of this meeting at the UNGA?
Well, the fundamental problem is that the more we use antibiotics, the quicker the bugs fight back and develop resistance. And we have been using antibiotics pretty indiscriminately over the last 70 years. And although clinicians and microbiologists have known about it and worried about it, this is the first time it's come up to head of state level. And what we have to do is to really change the way we use these drugs, both in the human and the animal sectors, get much better at investing in preventing infections in the first place, and then using them appropriately in the second place. And also thinking about getting new drugs and new diagnostics so that we can manage infection better. And because this is quite a complex issue across multiple sectors, it's a global problem. This is not something that one nation state can deal with on its own. That's why it has to go to this high level to gain agreement for all countries to sign up to really start to take this seriously, and to then work on the quite messy governance structures and accountability structures over the next couple of years, so that we can really address it properly over the next, over the next decades.
So
and avoid this really grim scenario that the World Bank have portrayed in this recent report.
So to prevent this situation, is this a case of science trying to catch up, or is it political? Where's the emphasis going to be over the next few years?
This is very much political. We need to have political will to create the regulations and enforce them on responsible use. On intellectual property things like around the new drugs. And we also will need some money to invest it. One of the other functions of this meeting is, as you said, it's the low-income countries that are going to be hit most. So this has to become a part of the development agenda as well. And has to be new finance or finance diverted towards ensuring we are managing infection appropriately.
So why might the political will not be there? Is it financial?
I think one of the reasons is just there are so many other things going on. As you say, a lot of attention is diverted to Syria and other crises. In many of these countries, they have a host of other problems, many of which are immediate. This is a problem that we have now, but is only going to get worse and is fairly hidden. And so it is really getting attention and getting people to focus on this. There's nobody saying this is not a problem. There is not a controversy as whether it matters. It's just the priority that it is given. And that's why having it at the UN is so important.
OK, Elizabeth Tayler, thank you very much for talking to us and thanks for your insight.